I have a serious reservation, forgive me, about media engagement, largely with sometimes corporate government relations in terms of the information that should be made public and not to be made public. And I say this with the greatest of respect to the media houses. I think that even in corporate life, class A stock owners and B stock owners, when they hold shareholder meetings, it's not made public. And those with ordinary stocks may have the general knowledge. I say this because I'm looking at the future where deals structured, demands will be made on the entities to necessarily put these things out when it's supposed to be, kept within the confines of the corporate entity. And yes, there's right to information. I agree to that, but then
the only difference with this one is that you're dealing with a natural resource. The 5G spectrum.
I haven't ended.
Yeah, the 5G spectrum is no different from oil, or gold, or cocoa.
No. Can I? Because the reason why I'm saying this is that I'm looking further into the future. One, in terms of our investor relationship management, and two, in terms of the extent to which sometimes true business transactions are colored politically, and it's not helping us. And I'm not even taking 5G issue.
Right.
I'm talking
in
general that we need to be very mindful that business reportage, when it comes to dealings in business, needs some finesse, needs some carefulness. If not, I mean, listen, there are some investors who would come and be willing to spend, but they don't even want their names to be out there, to be quadruple scrutinized, because it would affect even their reputation in the US or in the UK. So I'm only sounding some level of cautiousness that it shouldn't be. Listen, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, in his dealings with Mobitel way back, it is now that some of us can go and be privy to the intricacies of the transactions because it's been 20 plus years. Please, are you understanding me? So, and I'm not saying that all things should be kept in a vacuum or hidden from the general population for X amount of years. But my key thing is that in as much as we like to do reportage and try to nose around everything, I think that we need to be very cautious. There's a thin line between corporate relations, investor relations, and governance, or corporate governance, and then country governance. And I really think that, with the greatest of respect, we need to be very particularly mindful. It's almost like some of the things we say about certain banks, like Societe Generale recently. I mean, forgive me for, and how it can have an adverse impact on the bank. The Indums and the GN banks. Some commentaries can adversely impact business. So I'm here. One, I'm not going to say that I'm the authority on 5G network, but let me add that, listen, yesterday when I saw China land on the moon, a lot of things went through my mind that, Ghana dab3n, Ghana dab3n, in the sense that we're here worrying about tomatoes and kontomire, and these people are doing huge things, to the extent that when TikTok moves, the American economy can shake, and this is a Chinese-owned entity. So when is Ghana going to be a stakeholder? Because it's even funny that we're talking about 5G. I mean, we are still behind, in terms of the advancement, and rightly so, because one, we can't afford. We will always certainly be behind with the rest of the world in terms of internet speed. This is all these networking things, infrastructure things, comes down to your connectivity, your traffic, and the volume of data you can move within the internet space, and it's costly. And I think that one, oversight is important. I believe in what the minority is doing. They have a right to peruse and make questions, but I also think that there's always a limitation to where government can be so involved, because at the end of the day, listen, it's the person that pays that calls the tune, and sometimes, forgive me, we chew or bite more than we can chew. That's the right word, in the sense that sometimes we don't have nothing, somebody is coming with it, and we are rather making determinations and things like that, and muddying the process of what the technical people are doing. And I try not to be far-reaching in terms of my limitations with regards to deal structuring, with regards to the necessary due diligence that needs to be done. So I am of the opinion that, listen, this is just symptoms of future mishaps if we're not careful in how we manage brokerage dealings, the KPMGs and what they have to do, or Ernst & Young and all these other accounting industry. I think that, like this first statement here, lack of value for money. Make a statement of lack of value for money and tell me that in your truest market assessment from this people's assessment, then I know, because I can also sit here and say that government could have made 1 billion or 1 million. What is your justification? And I'll throw that question back to my own Dr. Atufos and hey, listen, we're doing politics, but business rules are 101. Your valuation, how did you arrive at it? Because what are you looking at to arrive at these valuations that you're talking about? And how do you justify that government could have made, whether 400 to 500? How do you justify it? From what? How do you make money from nothing? That's the first thing I'm going to just ask Atufos when I meet him. So I'm here to as it is, put some carefulness in how we try to reach out. And this is costing us, just like in the case of these tax incentives. And listen, it's a very complicated discussion. We've had it in many circles. Atufos several years ago was for tax exemptions. Now he's drinking different water and saying different things about tax exemptions. Fair should be fair. What we know is good for business, environment, business does not change, regardless of who's in government. And I'm pleading that, in as much as MPP is very pro-business, that is what our mandate usually is. We want to. That is what we profess. That the MPP is very pro-business.
That's right.
And I believe that in doing all of that, the NDC, being opposition, still need to be mindful of the fact that, listen, if we bring down all businesses down, and supposing you even win, you're going to make it it's going to be difficult for you to bring everything up. So as we do these things, we need to be mindful of the sentiments of the investors we deal with in this country. We need to be mindful of the regulations and rules that are worldwide. I think recently one Ghanaian was arrested in the U.S. as a result of his intent to bribe people. So corporate entities in the foreign world are very particular about their investors and the stories around them. And mind you, sometimes we make damning statements that are totally erroneous, and yet the damages far exceed what we are trying to do. So I'm making a plea here that, listen, there's a limit to how far politics can go. there's a limit to what government can do in terms of business structuring. And if an airline industry is buying an airplane for X amount, I mean, listen, those are the market value, and it's the market that determines more than the government. And if you can prove otherwise in court through very well studied estimations, I'm all for it. But his very first statement here, lack of value for money, because we just want to say lack of value for money, please. I'm not in support of that. I want facts and strong figures.
It gives a reason why he says there's no value for money. If you read the statement, he says that our conservative analysis shows that the state could have generated up to 400 upfront if the government had opted for a more competitive process. And he also takes issues with the spread of the 125 million over a 10-year period, linking it to a work and pay. That if they have to pay 12.5 million every year over 10 years, they simply will be working, generating the money and using part to pay you. That's the point he's making.
We were here when he agreed to 10 years tax incentives for Jata. He was part of it. No, I mean, these are things that are.
But this is not tax incentive. This is not a tax incentive.
No, I'm just saying.
He's saying that
it's a payment plan.
He's saying that
it's a payment plan.
He's saying that it doesn't make sense to give this resource to a company and spread the payment over 10 years and ask the company to pay you 12.5 million every year over 10 years. Listen, it is like giving the company the thing work and pay, so that.
But it is business structuring.
Yeah, but
and that is also
he's
part
saying
of
that the structuring of this business is inimical to the country.
Well,
you did a 4G.
Well,
you did a 4G.
Yeah.
How much did you raise from the 4G?
Yeah.
If you were to, will somebody disagree that if it were maybe a competitive, even if the process, even if government decided to use the same process, could you have changed the payment plan?
Well, I mean, that is subject to further review, but that can be done. But my point here.
So I'm saying that raising these legitimate issues is for government or the ministry to come and tell us that we are better off being paid, spreading the payment over a 10-year period.
We can do 250 for 5 years, something of that sort. I mean, no, I'm just saying. I mean, but that is but that comes back to my point that business dealings. Ours is to make sure that, one, things are moving appropriately, and we sometimes the nitty-grittiness is like you're micromanaging, and I really think that it becomes far-reaching when you then want to be into the.
But government is managing the resource on our behalf. It's like government is going to dispose of your oil or gold.
But a chunk of the initial investment is from
whatever it is.
Foreign.
Whatever it is. The resource which is at the center is your resource.
Yeah.
It is not somebody's private resource.
But you can access
so you cannot get
them.
I don't have a problem. I'm not sure that the issue that is being raised here is a public-private partnership issue.
Correct.
Or the fact that it's going to private hands.
Correct.
All they are saying is that
government could
the
have
process,
more.
yes. They're dealing a lot of if I read the statement, they are raising a lot of issues about the process. About the process.
I'm talking from the experience of
from
a married deal.
Yes.
Okay. And forgive me, listen, we the MPP at some point during the brokerage felt that things were off. But trust me, I mean, I'm not going to miss my words here on TV, that when we came into government and reviewed it, some amendments were made, which literally was in support of what the NDC had agreed upon.
It was worse.
No, but you get my point. And what I'm trying to say is that, listen, sometimes when you are not at the table and the discussions are ongoing, I'm sure somebody posed the same question during the discussion, and some arguments were proffered to allay the fears of the people. So it is fair, it is okay, but I really think sometimes we do it too much.
Okay.